Welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It is appreciated. Now look, the subscriber count seems to have had a little bit of a spike over the last 24 hours or so. No idea why, but for all the new subscribers to the channel, thank you very much for being here. Hope you do enjoy it, hope you enjoy the content. Various different things that go ahead. So for those new ones, I'll break this down real quick. This is actually a fairly stacked version of Basis Picks, because there's 3 separate cards on. Obviously I can't touch on every single fight on each card, but what I will be doing is talking a bit more in depth in the 3 main events, and then just maybe giving some general thoughts on some of the undercards where they may be. So with that being said, and for everyone new who's hopefully now caught up to speed, let's get into the picks. So tonight there's actually a Golden Boy Promotions card on the Zone. It's a very sort of small minor card, but it is headlined by JoJo Diaz, and he's taking on Jesus Antonio Perez Campos. Now, to give a very sort of brief summary on this, JoJo Diaz had 3 losses back to back where he's wasn't really living the life correctly, coming in overweight, competing in weight classes that at the time realistically were above where he should have been campaigning, but just wasn't being disciplined. But he gave a good account of himself in all of those fights. I guess at some point they must have felt like, all right, let's try and get his stock back to somewhere where he can either be now a big gatekeeper for us, or we can build him back, give him some wins so that he can be a credible scout for one of the new up and comers. My suspicion will be that he's now sort of being fattened up to be Floyd Schofield's next opponent of note. With that being said though, this is pretty much another layup for JoJo Diaz. Look, two-weight former world champion. He's definitely got a good amateur pedigree. He's got good fundamentals. He's good at working well inside the pocket, and he's good at sort of boxing from range against smaller opponents. But on the inside, he's pretty well, very tough. Very rarely gets rocked in fights. From what I can remember, has never been down. None of the fights he's lost has ever been via stoppage. He's just a tough kid, but he's got the good solid fundamentals as well. So I see this as being another rebuilding block for him, just another run out, and I expect him to get the victory. I think it goes points. I think he takes it a wide points decision over Campos, but yeah, this is definitely for me a JoJo Diaz win. Now moving over to Matchroom's offering on the Zone, which is taking place tomorrow night, which is Friday night for everyone I guess in the States, and technically it's Saturday morning for us over here in the UK. But you've got the rematch between Adrian Curiel and Sivenathi Nontshinga. Now for those of you who remember their bout, which I believe took place in November of last year in where was it, Monte Carlo, on the undercard of Joe Cordina and Edwin Vasquez. This one came out of the blue. Adrian Curiel at the time, I think he had 3 KOs in his 24. He was 23 wins, 4 losses, and I think 1 draw, 3 KOs. So no one expected him to get the 1 punch KO that he managed to get over Sivenathi Nontshinga in the 2nd round of all things. So they're running it back less than 3 months later. And this one is actually taking place in Curiel's, home city, home country of Mexico. And yeah, so Nontshinga's basically got everything against him in this one, but he wants to get back his IBF light flyweight title. This is what he has to do. He's really got to go into the Lions Den. Now, Nontshinga is the better skilled boxer of the two. Obviously Curiel is probably the tougher, if you want to look at it that way. Very much a pressure fighter. He goes down to the body pretty well. He had pretty good body punching, And in the first fight, you could see that Nontshinga was trying to nullify a lot of that sort of early, but he was also doing well from the outside and even on the inside as well. He was fairly comfortable all the way up until that shot landed, and it just, yeah, it was a shot that came out of nowhere. He was stepping to his left as well, which was walking right into the power hand of Adrian Curiel, which is something you never do, especially when you throw a lazy jab and then start walking over. So he hadn't even had his feet set at the time. So yeah, the shot came out of nowhere. But that being said, now he knows that there's frailty within him. Is Adrian Curiel gonna take that as his is he gonna take that as his opportunity to move forward? It's gonna be a tough one. Like I said, everything is against Nontshinga in this one, but of the two, he's the one that definitely showed the more power out of them previously, but the experience of Curiel is something, and I don't know if Nontshinga can shake off that KO so quickly after it occurred. That being said though, he's taken this rematch because I guess he clearly knows what he did wrong, and the fact he's taking it so early as well tells me that he realizes that to him this was a one-off, this was an error that shouldn't have happened and can't happen again. And if I take anything from the Mauricio Lara and Lee Wood fights from last year, if you know what you did wrong, you can implement a game plan to get revenge in a short space of time as well. So as much as Curiel should be the rightful favourite, I am looking at Sivenathi Nontshinga to get back his IBF light flyweight championship, and I think he's going to do it either by a very wide decision or a very late stoppage, maybe rounds 9, 10 or 11. But something more tells me that this fight goes the distance and he wins it on a unanimous decision that way. I mean, if it's Mexico seems to be fairly competent, so maybe it could even be a split decision. I don't see it being close, because even though he got knocked out in the second round of the first fight, he was quite clearly winning those first 2 rounds prior to that happening. So yeah, I think it'll be a wide decision. Also, Mauricio Lara's on the undercard. I don't know anything about his opponent Daniel Lugo, but it is a pretty much all Mexican card, so I'm expecting that to be a slobber knocker. I'm expecting it just to be a fun action fight, same with the rest of the fighters on the card. That's why I haven't really spoken about any of the undercard there. But yeah, ultimately I expect Mauricio Lara to come back nice strong at 126, and I do expect Sivenathi Nontshinga to get back his IBF light flyweight title via unanimous decision. So next, taking it over to the Top Rank offering on Friday night, which is taking place in Madison Square Garden's Hulu Theatre. It is actually a Shaki Foster versus Abraham Nova. Now, there's a few fights in this undercard that I'm quite interested in having a look at. Guido Vianello, heavyweight that used to train with Tyson Fury when he was doing his fights over in the States. He's still coming back off of his loss to Johnny Rice that happened at the start of last year. He had a fight against Curtis Harper back in October, and now he's taking on Moses Johnson. Interestingly enough, on the box rank rankings, Moses Johnson is actually ranked above Guido Vianello. I think he's like 128th in the world, and Guido's like 138th or something like that. So I guess they got very similar records. Guido's, I think, is 11-1-1, and I think Johnson's is something like 11-1-2 or something like that. So very similar in level, but it's a good comeback fight. I do expect Guido Vianello to come through it. I am probably predicting a stoppage in the middle to late rounds, probably like round 7. I think maybe round 7 to round 8. But yeah, there's that one. You've got Delante Tiger Johnson as well. He's coming back against Pablo Cesar Gualdino, I think his name is. Again, I think this is just another step on his building blocks up to sort of, you know, contender level status. Sort of big fan of Tiger Johnson. I very much like his style. Good boxer, good movement. So I do expect him to come through this. I expect him to win on points. He has got, you know, knockout capabilities, but he's a guy that does like to play it safe, especially if the opponent is an unknown quantity. So I can see him maybe not pressing to stop the action, and as such going 2 points. Next, Bruce Shushu Carrington. I know he's on the card as well, taking on Bernard Angelo Torres, I think is the name of his opponent. Shushu Carrington, he's definitely the truth. He's like that new wave of, even though he's obviously from Brooklyn, New York, but he's one of those sort of that new wave of Philly fighter that's just very comfortable in the pocket. He's a good mover, good boxing skills, good fundamentals, good footwork, punch placement, but he's comfortable being in the pocket, within striking range, and being defensively minded while he's there. Hasn't got the biggest punch, hasn't got the most power, but is very accurate and precise, and sometimes can hit the same spot so many times that it kind of just wears the opponent down. So in this particular fight, I am predicting for him also to get a fairly comfortable points win. I wouldn't be surprised if he does stop his opponent, but I do think it's going to go points. I think it's going to be a quite clear and wide unanimous decision. So that's where I'm going with that one. Now, the chief support is actually a very interesting fight, which is Brian Chevalier against Andres Cortez. Now, Cortez, I believe, is 20-0 with something like 18 KOs. I think that sounds about right. No, sorry, he's 20-0 with 11 KOs, and Chevalier is 21-1, but he is like, I think he's got 16 KOs, so he's actually, I guess, considerably the bigger puncher of the two. But this, I feel like, is supposed to be like, Chevalier was one of the sort of like the darlings, basically, of Top Rank. And then from what I remember, and then obviously he suffered that loss, and then there was like, oh well, what is he suffered the loss quite early in his, I think it was like on his 8th or 9th fight. So then he had to do a bit of a rebuilding job, but he's been basically going along steady since then. Now obviously you got Cortez on the other side, more of a boxer, less of a puncher like that, but has got pretty good fundamental skills, but he's got heart, and he's also got a bit of a chin as well. So I feel like the fight itself is going to be very competitive, but just due to the fact that Chevalier has obviously had his chin checked before and has come a cropper when it comes to that, and Cortez hasn't, I'm edging towards Cortez to win this one via a split decision. I can quite easily see it being a case where neither guy really dominates, but I think Cortez just got the slightly better boxing skills to be able to make the rounds a bit more clearer. So I am going to predict that Andres Cortez wins this fight via split decision. I mean, hey, could be incredibly wrong, but I think he's just levels and leagues above Chevalier as an opponent. But we'll find out on the night. Now, moving on to the main event, you got Mr. Icewater or Shaki Foster against Abraham Supernova. Now, I like Abraham Nova. I think he's a really credible guy. He's got some pretty good wins on his record, 23-1. The Jonathan Romero and the Adam Lopez wins were, very good. The only person obviously he's lost to is Robeisy Ramirez, so there's no disgrace in losing to him. One thing I do think is that sometimes he gets lazy with his front hand. His front hand control, he'll be in a position to be letting the jab off, but rather than keeping the hand tight when he pulls it back, ends up tending to drop low, so he tries to use his upper body and his body movement as a way to avoid shots, rather than obviously, you know, trying to block and defend as well. And that's kind of what brought him a cropper in the Robisi Ramirez fight. Whereas you got someone like Oshaki Foster, who, you know, is a switcher, can box from the orthodox position, can box from the southpaw position. He's quicker than Nova. He's not necessarily a huge power puncher, but he's effective, and he seems to recently have really got that dog in him where he wants to be clinical and he wants to take guys out. I feel like his timing is going to be better than Nova's, and I feel like he's going to, you know, bank a lot of the early rounds, probably take a couple rounds off in the middle, which is what he has been known to do at times, and then sort of come back strong towards the back end of the fight. There is a possibility that he gets a stoppage here, and he gets a stoppage quite early, sort of within I'd say between rounds 4 to 6. But due to what I've seen of Nova, and due to I think he is like more the hometown guy here, I don't see him really wanting to go out badly, you know, in front of, you know, friends and family. I do actually, I think he is a New Yorker. I'm not sure from which part, but I think he is. Or at least from the tri-state area. With that being said, I do see this being sort of like a, you know, I guess a showcase fight for Oshaki Foster on Top Rank, seen as, you know, I guess maybe the people on ESPN don't know him from there. So my prediction is going to be that Oshaki Foster wins this fight and wins it via unanimous decision. But if there is a KO, I expect it to come from him, and I expect it to be early. If Nova gets through the first 4 to 5 rounds, the fight goes the distance. If he gets caught early, it could end early. But I'm going to go unanimous decision for Oshaki Foster. So that's my predictions for this week's fights. Obviously, we were supposed to get Fury versus Usyk. That one's not happening now. Got 3 months to wait for that. But they say good things come to those who wait. Let's wait and see if that's the case. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Big ups to all the new subscribers. Thank you for being a part of the channel. You know, look at the memberships. You know, I will start doing more members only content again if the memberships pick up. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. And for right now, it's Basis Picks locked.